Some of the things that I'm forced to say to defend myself must be insulting, and I'm sorry if it is. I'm forced into it. These people tell such stupid lies, and then I'm forced to tell you the truth, and in the process of telling you the truth, it might even insult your intelligence, you know. I hope that's not going to be the case with this, what I need to tell you today, when I'm talking to you about substance abuse. And I'm sure that you probably thought that I was talking about drugs, until, well, I'm going to tell you it's not about drugs. It's about my substance as an artist, and my substance as an artist, or even as a person, I would say, consists of opinions, songs, poems, drawings. That's my substance. That's how I back up my claim that I'm an artist. By having this substance, by having this work that I did that rather closely resembles art, like my cartoons, like my poems, like my songs, one of which you're listening to perhaps right now in the background. A song about a tycoon, and as an artist, I just had to make it glorious. Even though I don't have much reason to like tycoons, I had to make it glorious because a tycoon is somebody very important, and maybe even some people might even think majestic, But that's just being a good artist and keeping myself out of my music, to be fair with my music. And it's just such a pity, and that some jackass was prancing around with this song, might even still now be prancing around with it, and he doesn't have a clue how to write it. And if you're a tycoon, if you're Bill Gates, if you're Donald Trump, you should really hate the guy who stole that song. I think he dishonored you almost as much as he dishonored me by stealing that. So the kind of substance abuse that I wanted to talk to you about today is actually stealing my property, stealing my substance, my music and my art. Why would you need to steal my art or my music? What? Because you lack substance. That would be why. Because the reason why you would need to steal some of my work, something of mine, is because you want to be an artist yourself, or some kind of a entertainer of some kind, and you don't have any material. So in other words, you want to be a comedian, but you don't have a single joke of your own construction. You have friends that can get you gigs, you have the right wardrobe, you know how to make funny faces, you know how to project your voice when you're on stage, you know how to seize the attention of a crowd, but you have not one joke of your own construction. Okay? Now here's what I say. If you don't have any jokes, don't be a comedian. I don't care how much you look like one. I don't care how much your mother thinks you're funny. Don't be a comedian if you have no material. Please. Write the material first and get someone to look at it, someone you can trust, and let him tell you if you're funny or not. Actually, if you can make your friends laugh, you're a comedian, because your friends are the hardest people to make laugh. They really are. They're the ones who are the most determined not to laugh, especially when you tell them that something is funny. And if you can still make them laugh after you've told them that you wrote something funny, if they still laugh after they read it, then you're a comedian, okay? Otherwise, don't be a comedian. Get some other job. There's lots of jobs. You don't have to be a comedian. Like, what do you think? God, it's the broadcaster's fault. They make these stars look too good. All right, and another example of my substance is my music. One song, another song which you're listening to right now. So, if you have no songs, like, don't be a musician. Don't be a musician if you have no songs. Write the songs first. Write them first. Write at least enough to play a show, like 20, say, write 20 songs and try them out on your friends and, you know, and see what they think. And, you know, if it sounds like you got something, then you got something, and it's all yours. And now you have the substance to go with your appearance. But don't organize a band, and don't make friends that can get you gigs, and don't buy a funky wardrobe to wear on stage. If you have no songs, please, don't do that. Because then you're going to need my substance to justify your appearance. And my substance is not about your appearance. It's not about your appearance at all. It's about my substance. And it should stay about my substance. Substance consists of opinions, and people. Substantial people are people who have opinions. They're people who think about the world, who have interests outside themselves, you know, strong interests. And I always thought that faith, or religion rather, was something that was an example of like something I could have an opinion about that really had nothing to do with me at all, you know, but was just a topic that I could discuss or whatever. And I had that weird kind of Christian acid trip or whatever in 2010 again. The first time I had it was 2007. That really was just so transforming, and I'll never go back to being an atheist, I know that. But I have been examining the faith since that time and learning as much as I can about it, and also trying to find the roots of the faith and seeing if it branches back into an even earlier faith and what that was all about. And yesterday I downloaded, I also wanted a more objective look at Jesus, and so yesterday I downloaded some Talmudic references to Jesus, which I don't know if I should. I don't want to get anybody upset, okay? I don't want to, we're talking religion now, and I don't want to start a war here. But there are some what appear to be unflattering references to Jesus, which I think are understandable, frankly, coming from the Jews who got picked on by the Christians so much. There are some unflattering references to Jesus in that, but I wasn't really able to glean anything useful of any kind of historical value, and especially because this book was written in 500 AD, which was, you know, 5 centuries removed from Jesus' time on earth, and probably not accurate. There was one thing, though, that they said that did actually strike me as being possibly true. It was that Jesus was born illegitimate. Jesus was an illegitimate child. I believe that. I believe Jesus was illegitimate. I don't think that the angel Gabriel got Mary pregnant. I don't believe that. I think he was illegitimate. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being illegitimate either. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's not his fault that he was illegitimate. It's not his fault. He doesn't choose his parents, right? So I don't hold it against him if he is. I have a really hard time with that Virgin Mary thing. Even artificial insemination, possibly, I don't know, but even that seems kind of far-fetched. But illegitimate heir, illegitimate father, now that makes sense. Especially, get this, in this particular reference, they say that his biological father's name was Panthera, which means in Greek, is very close to the word virgin in Greek. It's so close to the word virgin in Greek that that people were, just for a joke, was calling him the son of a virgin, because just because his father's name sounded like virgin, his illegitimate father's name. And so you could see the opportunity for jokes there, right? If his father had a name virgin, and he was and the boy was illegitimate, then and he was illegitimate. I'm getting all lost here with my. If he was illegitimate and his father had a name like Virgin, can you see the opportunities for jokes, right? Oh, here's the son of the Virgin, you know? And this could, of course, mutate into something else later on, depending on how successful his ministry is on earth. Ultimately, it proved to be very successful. So the Jews might have helped me out a little bit there with something that was really troubling me about this virgin birth. And frankly, I'm tempted to believe what they write about it more over what's written in the New Testament. There's one other thing about, I don't know, does the New Testament contain the Good News pamphlet? Does it actually have it in there, the Good News? I'm not sure if it's in there. I think it's a separate publication, isn't it? It was more like a pamphlet. That's how it was presented to me anyway, as like something outside of the Bible. It was like a pamphlet. And I thought it was very beautiful when I first read it. But of course, you know, Caesar Augustus had the best writers in the empire working for him. And the Good News proclamation was issued by the Roman government in the time of Augustus, because Augustus had instituted peace across the whole empire. It was called the Pax Romana. After the Romans conquered everything, they established peace across all these different countries. And this was good news. Of course it was good news, because all they'd ever done was slaughter each other up to that point, and you couldn't count on your child living past the age of 10. So Augustus wrote this proclamation about the good news of peace, and then a few decades later, Paul got his hands on it and used it to help spread the church. And this is because it was so beautifully written, and because it was written in so many different languages. So, you know, translation, that's no small task, especially if you want your translation to be compelling. You know, I doubt that the early Christians had the means to translate their message into every language in the empire. So this little pamphlet would have been a huge help to get them started. It would have at least let them recruit a few people from each country, and then from there they could use these people to be able to give them the rest of the scriptures translated. But to get it off the ground, I could see how they needed that Good News pamphlet. That was very useful. Is it plagiarism? Well, technically it is, because, you know, they're not presenting it as, you know, as the work of whoever wrote it. But on the other hand, Augustus didn't write it either. He didn't write it himself. You know, he got his writers to write it, and nobody signed it, and it just seemed to be wide open for use. And I don't know how wrong it was for them to use it. It was available, and, you know, and they weren't even changing the meaning of it that much. They weren't talking about a political peace, of course. They were talking about the peace that comes from looking forward to a glorious afterlife, compared to what they had up to then, which was that everybody goes to hell and you choke on dry dust for all eternity. Everybody goes to hell. That was religion before Jesus. So they, you know, if they'd have written their own pamphlet to promote their church, I mean, they probably would have written something very similar to what the Good News already said anyway about the Peace of Augustus. You know, so it was just expedient, and, you know, I suppose they should have written it themselves, but what's done is done, and, you know, a lot of people were inspired by that, in a very positive direction, and, you know, you just have to shrug your shoulders now. I don't think it was that wrong to do it. What they were trying to do made up for how they were doing it, I think. The end justified the means there. What they were trying to do was offer people hope, offer people peace. People had no hope. They thought they were going to die and choke on dry dust. They thought that no matter how they lived their lives, there was no hope of escaping hell at the end of it. That's what the church, or that not the church, but that's what the temple used to preach. That nobody escapes hell. Everybody goes there. And it doesn't matter how good you are. You still have to go to hell. You know, that's disturbing. That's a disturbing thought. And, you know, so the clock is ticking down on these people. Every minute of their lives, every second of their lives. And, you know, they have this black cloud hanging over their head, waiting to die and go to hell and be punished. Jesus offered them peace, offered them a way out of that. And that's why the Good News proclamation suited the Christian church. I don't think there's that much wrong with it. I thought about it, and I don't think there's that much wrong with them using that document for their church. There was one other point that I needed to make about, and what I was trying to remember was that the reason why they used to preach that there was no heaven. And I'm guessing that the reason why they used to preach that there was no heaven was to stop people from committing suicide to get there. That's all I wanted to add. That was the little point that was escaping my brain. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say for today, and I might even trim it down some more when I get it into the computer.